AVC, how we doing? Adam here from the Freight. Hope you guys are all having a great St. Patrick's Day. Got my sporting my Celtics gear. Of course, I'm from the Boston area, and everyone's Irish on St. Patrick's Day around here. So happy St. Patrick's Day. Hope you guys had an enjoyable weekend. I wanted to talk to you about something really cool today. Something that I've found that I really enjoy that I didn't ever necessarily think that I would. Um, and that's listening to records that are in mono. Um, of course, we all have our two-speaker stereo system setups, right? And back in the day, up until the late '50s, the only way to listen to records was in mono. You had these big one-speaker consoles, you had these big or one-speaker sort of systems that were coming out of various kinds of receivers and things like that. And that was how people listened, sitting in front of one big block and hearing things. And recording engineers got pretty great at recording mono sounds. Even as the infancy in the sort of late '50s of stereo came into play, there was still some amazing mono recordings going. A perfect example of that we all know is the Beatles. And everyone talks about how that Beatles mono box set is so rare and collectible and whatever. It's not just because it's rare and collectible, that Beatles mono box set. It sounds fantastic. I haven't heard all of them. I've heard probably half of them, but I have heard just about every Beatles record that they have in mono. And I love the way they sound in mono. The Beatles sound fantastic in mono. In fact, that was much their preferred way to be recorded and have their releases, was to be in mono. And I think that is important to know, that mono recordings can sound wonderful. Now, one thing I did probably a little over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, was I actually bought a mono cartridge, which they have mono cartridges. So typically, our stereo setups have a cartridge that is intended for stereo listening. You can absolutely use your stereo cartridge, your typical cartridge for mono recordings. It's totally fine. But they do have mono-specific cartridges. I bought a Ortofon White mono cartridge probably 2 years ago. It was around, I want to say it was around $350, something like that. Memory serves correctly. And I know, believe me, cartridges go up so crazy high, and I wasn't about to go there yet. However, I'm very happy I invested that money into the mono cartridge. I really enjoy listening to records in mono, and I will not listen to a record or buy a record if I see one that's in mono or stereo. I have no problem buying the mono copy. I really enjoy it. So what I want to do here, now that I've talked a little bit about mono and its evolution, it kind of went out of phase in the late '60s. You really don't see anything in mono after the sort of mid to late '60s. It kind of went out of phase. That's why the Beatles' last 2-3 albums were never fully recorded in mono, like Abbey Road and Let It Be. However, I want to talk to you about some examples of different genres of music. I have probably 3 or 4 different genres of music and a mono record in each that I think sound as good as you could get any stereo record sounding. And these records to me are sort of reference quality. Get your ears going, testing your system, testing the depth of your system and width. Some people think that just because things are mono, it loses width. And maybe that's true to an extent, but some of these recordings that I'm about to show you are wider than the speakers, beautiful soundstage, beautiful imaging, beautiful depth in the bass, beautiful dynamic range, better than a ton of stereo recordings. So without further ado, here is the some examples going through some various genres. I have one classical record. I enjoy classical music. It's not like a top choice for me, but I really do enjoy classical music. I learned a lot about it in school, at Berkeley. I didn't do well in it, but I learned a lot. And it's interesting to me. I enjoy listening to it. Some of it's harder for me to digest than other genres of classical music. There's a lot, just like jazz, there's lots of different kind of sub things that exist. But I want to give you an example of a record that I found in my local thrift shop for $1. I just took a chance on it. This is something I'd never seen before, wasn't familiar with it. Um, I don't even know, this is not something I've heard of. It's called Prokofiev Classical Symphony in D Major. Okay, and this is Westminster Hi-Fi. This record came, obviously it's not in it now. I took it out. You can even hear it still. This record was like hermetically sealed in a zipper, a plastic, like it had a zipper on it, right? And it was just like, it was sealed. You could tell it never been opened. So this came out in 1950. I want to say it was 55. I'd have to go back and look, but it was like the mid 50s. This record came out. So this was still sealed in its original thing. You could tell it never been opened. The zipper was still, everything was still sealed about it. The plastic around it was all yellow. But the record looked really interesting because, it says Westminster Hi-Fi. It has that space age kind of, I don't know. It looked really appealing to me. And I was like, you know what? It's $1. I'm going to get it. So I brought this home, cleaned it up. I wish I could have kept the zipper, but I couldn't get to the record. The zipper was so stuck. I had to cut it open to get to it. So the zipper is no more. I might have taken a picture of it somewhere, but I want to show you this record. Beautiful, unplayed mint. Really amazing stuff. So I put this record on. I put the mono, cleaned it up, put the mono cartridge on. This is definitely one of the best sounding classical records in my collection, probably the best. And I put this on for the producer who produces our records. He came over to listen to some vinyl. I bring him over and have him listen to stuff for reference, and it always blows him away. And I had him listen to this. I played him this, and I go, dude, this is mono. I'm going to put this on, and you see what you think. And we put it on. I turned it up. We sat down, and he was blown away. I was blown away. Every time I hear it, I am blown away by this record. This has depth and like imaging, like rising from the ground. The symphony fills the room. It's wild. It's like, the lowest of the low, the softest of the soft to the loudest of the loud in a symphony when it's done right and executed right. And there's a reason why classically trained musicians are so amazing, and especially from this era. I mean, these guys could do anything and execute anything. I'm not saying that this is the most available record. I actually don't even know. Look it up on Discogs if you want. But I guess my overall point is take a chance on some mono records, because that one, my gosh, does it sound fantastic. I also want to show you a couple of other. That's the only classical record I'm going to show. So I just wanted to show you that classical music, any music, can sound wonderful in mono. Here's a couple of more classic examples. These are some early, I think they're original presses actually, 2i Columbia's of Miles Davis, 7 Steps to Heaven, and Quiet Nights with Gil Evans. So this is a really wonderful era of Miles. He's kind of transitioning out of or around the hard bop thing and the modal thing that's going on, but doing this wonderful sort of arranged music with Gil Evans and orchestrations. And it's not orchestra music, classical music. If you don't know these, it's beautiful. These records sound amazing. They have wonderful bass, wonderful sound stage. These are both in mono. I have no desire to get, I don't even know if these are released in stereo in any kind of reissue form, but I have no desire to hear them in stereo. These sound so good in mono. Yeah, they're wonderful. So 2 other examples, and there's lots of that jazz era of jazz and Miles Davis you can find in mono in various iterations, whether it's original or I'm sure even some reissues. But again, at that time frame, the intent was to record in mono. And they may have done stereo also. Sometimes they did both. They did microphone setups that would record mono and stereo, all good. But sometimes they did things where they as that kind of thing went on, they would like fold down stereo into mono, or they would try to make mono into stereo, different panning thing. It's never, those kinds of things never panned out, never worked out. You want the actual mono recordings when you get things like this. Just another, great example of jazz. Here's some vocal jazz, Astrid Gilberto, the shadow of your smile. What a voice on Astrid. You don't miss anything hearing this in mono. You hear her beautiful voice, the airiness, the light breath of her voice, beautiful, carries in the room, wonderful. And that one I don't think is all that expensive to find. So there's a vocal jazz. Here's a Atlantic 75 in mono. Charles Mingus the Clown. Excuse me. What a sound on this record. This is action-packed, energetic. It totally has that sort of 60s, early 60s, late 50s vibe going on of like, it's got like announcers in it, and you get that like you're at an event, you're at a show, and the sound is just jumping out at you. His bass sound is off the charts on this Atlantic 75. So if you wanted to try like a high quality mono, this is definitely an example of a high quality mono. Obviously the Atlantic 75s I've talked about a lot, and they are, $60 a record. So you're investing in this. But if you find that it's something you really want to hear kind of like the top of the top, something like this is a wonderful way to do it. One of the Atlantic 75s in mono. Really amazing. This is just another example. My last jazz example. This came out like 2 record store days ago, maybe a year or 2 ago. Everybody digs Bill Evans in mono. This sounds wonderful. Again, Bill Evans, I do not miss anything not having this in stereo. Wonderful, wonderful recording that you don't even think that it's in mono. It doesn't even cross your mind. You're just enjoying the music, which is the point of me pointing this kind of stuff out to you. Excuse me. So moving on to like another kind of genre. Here's blues, okay? A more traditional blues album. Again, this is an Atlantic 75. T-Bone Walker, T-Bone's Blues. This is one of those records that is in that Howlin' Wolf vein. The Muddy Waters, all those old blues guys, like the Folk Singer album. I just mean the vibe of that. This is that early electric blues. T-Bone Walker is like the pioneer of electric blues that brought it to everybody and made it, popular. He's the bridge, and he's one of the most important blues musicians ever. This record is phenomenal. Sounds incredible, really incredible. His voice and his guitar playing is really something special to hear, especially in this fidelity. Again, mono record. Can't recommend this one enough. If you're into the blues and you want a high quality blues album to listen to, get you going, this one. Okay, let's move on to some more traditional rock and roll examples, all right? Bob Dylan, Blonde on Blonde. This is I think this is the Vinyl Me Please reissue that Ryan K. Smith cut at Sterling. And this sounds fantastic. I compared it to, I had I think early 70s repress, and this sounded better. And they were both mono. This one actually sounded better than the early 70s repress. It's really good, really great. This is on cool kind of like translucent tan kind of thing. This is probably my favorite Bob Dylan album. I would say this, maybe Blood on the Tracks. But anyway, it's fantastic. It sounds amazing. Not missing a thing that it's in stereo. Bob Dylan's right there with you. That acoustic guitar's cutting through. The band's cutting through. It's awesome. Again, wonderful, wonderful recording. And this is an example of a reissue, that's in mono. Okay, so this is a modern reissue. I came out probably 2 or 3 years ago. They chose to do it in mono. Sounds amazing. Cut by Ryan Smith. Super high quality. Awesome, awesome, awesome record. And I'm gonna finish off with a couple of mono examples of course, my favorite band, the Beatles. Right. I'm gonna go first with an example from the mono box set. Again, I don't have the mono box set, but I have some of the records from it that I've purchased. This is one, Mono Masters. If you're looking, this is a 3-record set. Okay, it's got an unbelievable in here write up. Like you could read this. I remember this being in the CD version too. You had like in the book, you could read all about this. Really excellent write up. Actually, this is really good. The thing with that I think is really interesting about this, well, a couple things. The selection on this is probably one of the best Beatles compilations. The idea behind Past Masters, when it came out on CD, it was called Past Masters. When it's on this, it's called Mono Masters because this is all in mono. But it's all the same songs, but the mono versions. From the analog tape, all those things, blah, blah, blah. Sounds incredible, top to bottom. Every song on this is amazing. First things first, this, if you're looking to maybe chip away at the Beatles mono thing and get some records, this is actually a really great place to start. It's actually, weirdly, like probably the cheapest mono Beatles record from that 2014 set that you can get. I got this for like, I want to say like $75, not too long ago, maybe like 6 months ago, 8 months ago. On eBay, I found one. I just found one at that price. Typically, they're anywhere from like, that's the lowest I've seen it, so I grabbed it. But anywhere from that to around like 100 to 125, something like that. But some of the other Beatles mono ones go 100, 200, even up to $300, crazy prices. But like, so my point is, this is one of the best values because you get 3 full discs, and these discs are packed. These records are packed with music. Sounds incredible. These are the Beatles singles, right? So the idea behind Past Masters was they took all the singles, because what this was, when they released, this came out in the late 80s when they released everything on CD, the Beatles did. And so how are they going to get all that music, all the singles that they released onto this? They created Past Masters, that series, and it has all their singles. So all the A's and B sides that they came out with are on the Masters, the Mono Masters and the Past Masters. So this is some of their best music. You know, of course, every one of their singles they put out, A and B sides, are music you want to hear if you're a Beatles fan. Great way to get into the mono box set. Check it out. If you're thinking about testing the waters, just, you know, I know $75 to $100, that's a lot of money for a record, but I'm just saying it's a good starting point if you are serious about the Beatles stuff and serious about hearing the Beatles in mono. Because it's not expensive, it's not cheap to get into the Beatles in mono in anyway, except for the next way that I'm going to show you, which is a little more reasonable. And this is just came out last year, and of course I'm talking about the American Beatles box that came out in they released the first like 5, I think it was, American records. I've been on record many times as saying I don't like the American versions. I don't care for the song order. I don't care what anyone says. It's not the way they were meant to be heard. It's not the way that the Beatles wanted them heard. And I think, you know, pretty much across the board, it took away from what the intent was. However, that said, these sound really good. And if you have these, I go back to these. I will listen to these. It's enjoyable. The sound is wonderful. I've never heard these sound so good. All the copies, good luck finding a non-beat up original American. They were played to death. So, you know, it is great to, and I have all of them. It's great to, of course I do. You know, I'm not going to not buy what the Beatles put out on vinyl. So unfortunately, I'm one of those guys. But they sound great. Can't recommend them enough. Like, it's good to hear the American versions in the best possible quality. It's not something I would ever choose over, you know, the UK track lists or anything like that, or sound. But they do sound really good, better than I ever thought they could. So worthwhile investment. You can get these for like $25 to like $28, wherever. Good mono listening experience for sure. Very enjoyable. The last one I want to show you is just, this is probably one of like my grails in my collection. And it's not even like the most valuable thing or anything like that. It's just the way I found it. I found it at an antique store. It was sitting on the ground in front of a crate of records. It's an original 67 mono UK press. And I found it at the most random antique flea market, actually. And it was just sitting there. You can see here, I'll take it out. It's probably a VG Plus copy. VG, yeah, I would say VG Plus. It plays awesome. Doesn't have a ton of noise at all. Really great copy. Maybe VG, I don't know, we'll see. But it sounds really great, and it's listening to Sergeant Pepper in mono is awesome, and it might be my preferred way to listen to it. I've never heard I've never heard a UK stereo, original stereo, so I can't compare it to that. But that 67 mono UK is amazing, and it is my cherished copy. I have lots of copies of Sergeant Pepper, and that is the one. If I want to really sit down and listen, 100% of the time, that's the one I'm putting on. Not even a question. Putting on the mono cartridge, sitting down, getting into the music, and the music is everywhere. It's not small. It's not blocked off. It's open. It's big. It's present. It's awesome. And I think I just I want to share that with you guys, that mono listening can be awesome listening. And yeah, I hope you guys got some ideas from this video. These are just some vague suggestions. I think my overall message is that don't be scared of mono. Go for it. You can really find some amazing, amazing sounding mono records that will rival any of your stereo records. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. You got this far, please like and subscribe if you like what I'm doing. And there's going to be lots more to come. And I will see you guys in the next one. All right. Have a great day. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Peace.